Hey guys, so in this video, I'm really excited to be talking about how I lost $400 in just 2 weeks with Motley Fool. And you're asking yourself, why are you so excited about that? And for me, I like to talk about the good things, and obviously my other couple videos about Motley Fool, so a lot about the positives. And I'll be talking about the positive side still, but when it comes to investing or making money like this, there will always also be downsides to it. And you want to set the expectations correctly. You're not going to always be making money, and obviously you want to come out ahead overall, and there will be undoubtedly times where you actually lose a lot of money in a very short amount of time, and you need to know how to manage your emotions and make sure you go back to your strategy on what you're trying to do with investing. For me, I like to invest very long terms. I'm looking at maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line, and so just losing couple $100 in 2 weeks is not gonna make a huge difference. And sometimes when the stock prices go down like that and you're kind of seeing your numbers go down, I actually see it as a positive because I see it as stocks being on sale, and that's when you have to buy more of it. But if you're someone who is looking to go into Motley Fool, I talk about all the positives to it, and the thing is, what they do well is manage your expectations in terms of the downturns and expecting you losing at any point 10, 20, 30%. If you're new to investing and let's say you are looking to go into Motley Fool as a way to pick stocks, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're ready for the downturn and seeing that money go down and not withdrawing it. And because when you withdraw it, that's when you kind of realize your losses, because you could have an unrealized loss of a couple hundred, but if it bounces back up next week, then that unrealized loss diminishes. But as soon as you withdraw the money out, then that's when it's realized, and that's when you actually lose money in stocks. Being able to be ready emotionally to take that 10, 20, even 30, 40% of your portfolio decline like that, and if you are ready for it, then you see it and you just kind of shrug it off. But if anything, you should actually be putting more money in. And that's exactly what I did in March of 2020. When the market went down, I tried to put in as much cash as possible to try buy more stocks and mutual funds that I have. But especially when the market goes down like this, just being really calm. And I think if you remove your emotions from investing, then I think that'll help you over the long term. But if you let your greed or your fear get in the way, then that's when you could lose a lot of money. And you want to make sure you're just keeping that money in as long as possible, especially if you believe in the stocks and you've done your due diligence, or if Motley Fool or other services that you are paying for has done their due diligence to figure out whether they'll grow over the long term, then that 1 to 2 weeks of loss won't really hurt you in the long run. So in a video like this, I want to go into the positive first to focus on what's actually happening overall, and then go into the negatives a little bit, and then my thoughts on that negative. So in terms of the positive, I'm not really forcing that positive to occur or kind of happen. I'm just seeing in the big picture, and I think the overall message is positive. So I'm gonna spew some numbers just to kind of help you recap in terms of where I've been and where I am now. So I bought my first stocks with Motley Fool around November 19th of last year. So around 2 months later, after I bought the Motley Fool service, I was up around $262. And that growth was around 11%, which is great, especially for being in there for 2 months. And given that each of the services are around $99, making $262 made it worth it to pay that off within 2 months, and then I could have 10 months of growth. And you might be thinking, okay, I made $262 and you're saying over the last 2 weeks I lost $400. So you're wondering, am I in the negative? And that's a great question if you did ask that. And the funny thing is, I'm still in the positive, and actually I'm still beyond my last video, which is $262. So that means I had a crazy growth in the past month, and then that huge $400 drop. And just to kind of plug in the numbers, I was at around $262 in late January, and 2 weeks later from the last video that I had, I was actually up around $721. And that growth comes out to around 20% of my portfolio. And the crazy part is that I don't think I actually put in that much money in between those 2 week time periods. And then that's when the drop happened, where it went from $721 to around $342. And I'm gonna estimate that as around $400. And so within the very short time period of last month, the first 2 weeks was enormous amount of growth. And then the back half is when the $400 dropped. And just looking at the big picture is that, yes, it dropped $400, but I'm still up $80 since the last video. This is exactly why I'm very excited about making this video, because this gives a very realistic view on how investing is done, and that you will have good weeks or good months for a long period of time, and there will be a short amount of time where you could also lose money as well. And so I don't want to only post about the times when I do make a lot of money, and I don't want to just post about the upturns of Motley Fool stocks, but I also want to kind of give a realistic view on that the stocks can go down as well. Before talking more about my thoughts about this, I want to go into the question that you might have if you watch my 2 previous videos about Motley Fool, and that is Motley Fool still worth it to me? And given that I'm still up $342 and the service costs around $99 each, I think it's still worth it. I'm totally fine with just paying for a service because I'm in it for the long term. And for me, this doesn't really affect me as much, given that I'm not trying to sell at any point. But if you do have a shorter time period or your investing strategy is different, then maybe it's not worth it to you. But for me, for anyone who's a long-term investor, I think Motley Fool is definitely a great option to have. As I kind of close up this video now, I want to go into the last 3 caveats in terms of my thoughts on this and this situation. Number 1 is, yes, if you are a long-term investor and you could weather the storm of market dropping, make sure you always have an emergency fund. And I think that's so important, because if you don't have that, and let's say you are tight on cash and maybe you lost your job, you're gonna need to make sure that you're not taking money out of your portfolio. And to do that, you need to make sure you have somewhat of a cash cushion where you're not reaching into your stocks or your bonds to get that money to pay for your expenses. And a lot of people don't want to take money out of your portfolio, but sometimes they have to. And that totally makes sense. And so being ready for the downturn on the market, and maybe you end up losing a job at the same time, and that just becomes a bad timing. And if all your money is in the stocks and your portfolio drops 30% and you end up withdrawing a lot of that money out, then it doesn't have a chance to bounce back up in the next couple of months or years. And so you definitely want to make sure you have a cushion in terms of that, so that even if you're collecting unemployment, that you still have enough cash around so that you're not thinking about taking that money out. The second thing I definitely want to talk about is, just because the market goes up does not mean the individual stocks that you have will also go up. The stocks in general will go up over the long term, and that doesn't necessarily mean every stock will go up as well. And the third and last thing I do want to talk about that's related to the second one now is, if you are going to invest in an individual stock, make sure you believe in it, you've done your due diligence, you've done your homework to understand what is their strategy going forward, and do they have a big enough market that they could grow in. And this is where Motley Fool excels very well. And so because they do a lot of the research up front, and not only do they do the quantitative side, but also the qualitative side, and figuring out which stocks will go up over the long term. So that's it for this video. I was very excited about making this video because it is important for me to kind of share that there is the positive side, but there is also the negative downturns that you need to be ready for. And so especially if you are a beginner, you don't want to learn the hard way. You want to make sure that when you're learning about this, you kind of go into it with the right mindset. And I do want to focus on the positive side still, and I'm still up $342 even with the downturn. And that actually accounts for around 9.6% of growth. And given that the market is around 7 to 9%, it is still on the higher end. And so if this is the worst, then there's only upturn from there. But if you're able to see 2 weeks ago, it was up 20% at $700. And so there's definitely a lot of upside to this, and I think I would love to kind of continue to make an update on this. But if you did recently buy Motley Fool, I could definitely see you starting the negative side. But think of it as stocks being on sale at this point, especially if they are undervalued or good companies. And at that point, even if you're in the negative side, make sure you continually contribute to your portfolio, especially investing in the stocks that you believe in, so that over the long term, that this will continue to grow. If you have any questions about Motley Fool, the stock market, or investing in general, leave it in the comment section below. I would love to kind of engage with you on that. But please let me know what you think about this video. Do you think it was helpful to kind of keep that right mindset, and whether or not you've gotten a lot of good content from this? And I'll continue to give you updates on how well or how badly this portfolio is performing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.